What's up, everybody? It's your friends, the Purple Friends. I'm your co-host, Co.
And I'm your co-host, Joe.
What's up?
What's up, everyone? We are your Purple Friends, and we are back.
Do you get scared when you let me start the podcast and you're
Sometimes.
like, what is he going to say?
Yeah, it's always like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of like early to mid 2000s YouTuber energy.
Yeah. It's also kind of like mid. Yeah, I mean, even now, I feel like.
Yeah, it's too bad that hung on because I was about to say that's almost retro at this point, but no, that's still here.
No, it's still here. Well, anyway, welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here.
Yeah, welcome to our Purple Friends podcast. What is the Purple Friends podcast? We haven't really said what kind of podcast we are in a while.
It is a mental health podcast.
Yeah, and
other stuff.
Yeah, sometimes we just chat about whatever. Jocelyn's a therapist.
Yep.
And I help run her practice.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. That's the intro.
So let's talk. This podcast is dying without an intro. I'm going to think about that before next time.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's been 2 seasons now at this point. Anywho, should we let them know what we're talking about today, or should that be a little sweet surprise for after the Little Gratefuls?
Maybe after, because it's such an intense topic that maybe they'll bounce just hearing that's what we're going to talk about.
So let's just reel y'all in with some Little Gratefuls.
Yes.
Hello. I'm going to start first because I got one. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everybody.
Woo-hoo!
I am so grateful, so grateful for all my Latino community, for being Latina. I love my culture. I love celebrating my culture. And today, when this releases, is Honduran Independence Day, September 15th.
Nice.
And then tomorrow, September 16th, is Mexican Independence Day.
Nice.
So it does kind of kickstart the Hispanic Heritage Month. So I love immigrants and they make America great.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for them, including my parents and all my clients who I know are immigrants or first gen. Love y'all. Celebrating, and I'm so grateful for you all today.
Yes.
Now you.
Boy. Okay. I wish I had thought of one. Let me think. What am I going to talk about? Fall.
I feel like inside your brain was like that SpongeBob meme.
The milk carton falling over?
No, the one where it's like all the files are on fire and he's like,
Yes.
his name! We can't think of a name!
We threw out his name! That's exactly what it was like.
It's like the last piece. It's like fall.
And all I could muster out was one syllable.
But you know what? Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. We got a little taste of fall. We got a little false fall action for the last couple of weeks. And it's really hot again. But I'm just so grateful that like in the last 2 weeks since we last talked to y'all that it's just been so pleasant.
So nice.
It's like my favorite weather of all time. And it's
Same.
so fleeting where we live, but I love it so much. And I hope we get a little taste of it again before the end of the year. But
Definitely.
as I said, right now, it's like 85 degrees again. So boo.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful that it was like
so nice.
apple picking weather, like pumpkin patch weather. It was so great.
I was lucky enough to put my pottery wheel outside. Thank you to you.
That was so awesome.
And just throw pottery outside in this lovely weather. It was just so great. I am also so grateful for that. I'm also stealing that little grateful.
Yeah. That was really cool to see you do pottery on the back patio, like under the hanging lights and stuff in the dark. That was really cool.
It was nice.
It was a whole vibe.
It was definitely a whole vibe. It was so nice. And I didn't care about making a mess because it was outside. So it was great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Okay.
Now,
big shift in tone, everybody.
Now, yeah.
Look, no, I'm gonna intro this. Yes, I'm gonna ease this in. We are a mental health practice in a primarily historically conservative, religious suburb in Chicago.
Yes.
literally this is the home of like one of the biggest like fundamentalist Christian colleges, and there's like a church on every street corner. So religious trauma and religious awareness, we'll say, I think is important as a practicing clinician here. So we are going to be talking about that because, like I said, I get a lot of clients both from the college and from the community who are actively either deconstructing, finding nuance, healing from their religious trauma, or even just better understanding their definitions of religion. So this episode has been on our minds for a long, long time, at least on my mind for a long, long time, because I also grew up Christian, like very Christian, and grew up in youth groups and had to do my own deconstruction and my own redefining and my own healing from the cringiness and the identity that once was a version of myself, and who I am now, which is, I think, very different, and reconciling that, right? So we want to talk about that religious trauma, religious abuse.
Faith abuse.
Faith abuse.
Going to be a big thing we're talking about today.
Yes.
So trigger warning, fair warning. We will be talking about faith abuse, which includes psychological and physical abuse sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, there's a lot of nuance in this episode. I mean, especially in the larger context of our country too. I mean, like there's going to be a lot of nuance here. And I think that's maybe the crux of, the crux of this episode, or I think how to even confront religious abuse or faith trauma, or even just religious understanding in this world. There's gonna have to be room for nuance and room for two things to be true at once, and room for sitting in that discomfort. And what's that word? I always forget what it is, but I always use it. Distress tolerance.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think it can feel really uncomfortable for many people, but we urge y'all to have an open mind, right? Hear us out a little bit as we kind of explore this topic, right? Especially since, like I said, contextually in where we practice, it's very important.
Yes.
I also, yeah, okay, no, we'll just start from there.
Yeah. Hold on to your alsos.
Yes. Would you like to describe what, I guess, like the fundamental definition
Of faith abuse?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, it's like we mentioned before, faith abuse is a form of emotional, psychological, spiritual, sometimes physical abuse that occurs within a religious or spiritual context. So it's not about the belief system itself. It's more about the misuse of power and control within that system.
Thank you so much for defining that, because I think it makes a very clear distinction that this is not at any means like a criticism on personal beliefs,
Yes.
right? And your personal religion, that's fine, right? It's exactly what you said, the dynamic of the power within that, right? How it's being used to manipulate, to control, to shame, to guilt people of their congregation, which we do see a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Shall I continue?
yes.
So faith abuse often also involves the use of manipulation, gaslighting, and especially shaming. And these tactics can erode a person's sense of self, their agency, their trust in their own judgment. So, like, you hear those things, you know that this is the type of abuse that, like, this will leverage your deepest values and desire for goodness, your own desire to be a good person against you. So, intense.
It is really intense. And I think that's like one of the largest motivators, I think, for most people is like there is this dire need to fulfill a certain belief of oneself. So if there is this belief of I am a good person, everything needs to align with that. And that can be really problematic. Very problematic, because we are human, we are messy, we mess up. And if we make no room for mess ups, right? If we hold on dearly to these beliefs of I am a good person, we kind of reject being held accountable sometimes, you know? Or what I see, for example, like I'm going to hold on to this example of like, I'm a good person.
Okay.
Belief, because I think it's a very common belief, especially within the religious realm. There's this desire to be a good person. Like I think about racism, for example. Like non-explicit racism, microaggressions, right, are still problematic, still impactful. And I think a lot of the times there's maybe this rejection of like, oh, I'm not racist, or I'm not this, or no, that's not that, like this kind of dismissal of it. Again, because it doesn't align with their belief of I'm a good person. A good person isn't racist. A good person wouldn't do that. And so there's this rejection to their own actions. And that's where I think there's a little bit of problematic on that end. But then also it's problematic on the other end of introducing shame, right? Of like deep sense of I am bad if I do normal human things.
You're not only bad, but you are alone and eventually abandoned.
Yes. I mean, how many of these religions? I mean, we can talk about extremes, but I think like things have gotten more extreme, right? And that's what I wanted to caveat to at the beginning, was that like this idea of like polarization and groupthink. You know, just what is it? I wrote it down. It just more polarization essentially is that after discussion, after being with like-minded individuals, there's more extreme views and more extreme thinking.
Right. Yeah. It's like the opposite of if you have like a diverse group of perspectives, which like kind of normalizes and averages things out and kind of gives you sort of like a
middle ground.
Yes. This is like everybody has the same thoughts and it's making that echo chamber. And it sort of is like, yeah, you're right. It's self-confirmation, confirming each other until it's more and more extreme.
Yes. Shall we talk about misconceptions?
I would love to do that.
Okay. So certain misconceptions with faith abuse is that it's just a crisis of faith, right? So like spiritual questioning is different from faith abuse, right? A crisis of faith is often a personal journey of wrestling with your certain beliefs, while faith abuse involves harm inflicted by others and the misuse of power. Faith abuse can lead to a crisis of faith, but they are not the same thing. I think a lot of the times, at least I remember my upbringing, like there was a lot of prepping for a crisis of faith.
Oh, talk about that.
Yeah. And it's funny. I read this article.
What were you told as a youngster?
Yeah.
In
my indoctrination. This is I read this article from the APA.
American Psychological Association.
Thank you. That talks about faith abuse and essentially that, right? Like the crisis of faith part and like the questioning or doubting, like that's a normal part of most religious identity, I think.
It's also like psychologically a normal part of any like long-held belief.
Yes. And so like I felt like my youth group did tried real hard to prep us for any potential doubting or any potential crisis of faith. And like,
you didn't like my joke about
doubting Thomas?
Just give me something. I'm Jewish. Are you surprised I even know who that is?
Yeah, because isn't he from the New Testament?
Yeah, because he's doubting about Jesus.
Yeah,
he sticks his fingers in the holes or whatever.
Oh my god! Okay. All right.
Okay, because I have this is not the time or the place to talk about why I know so much.
But anyway, yes, they would prep us, right? We would have debates in like Sunday school on like how to discredit or how to use the Bible to
disprove things like evolution.
Yes, or like some of these doubts that might be introduced by either peers of us or our own selves.
Or your teachers, God forbid.
You know what?
Heaven forbid, excuse me.
I remember like my pastor there was a vibe when I said I was going to like a secular college, and like there was this push to go to the college in our town, and like we'll get to this, but like everything, a lot of the times in faith abuse, everything has to align under this idea of power, right? Like your friends, your partner, where you work, all of this is like under that same umbrella. And I remember having like this push to get married super early. And I feel like you and I got married pretty young.
Yeah, how old were we?
I was 24.
25 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I still would consider that fairly young.
Yeah, it's pretty young.
But there was like a more of a push. I remember like to find the one within your youth group, and
Of course.
it can feel a little incestuous too, because like everyone kind of dates each other in the youth group. It's just, it can be a really weird environment. But anyway, yeah, they would prep us for this kind of crisis of faith to essentially, I think, to discredit any form of doubt in front of us, so we can tell you how to not doubt it. You know, there wasn't really this exploration. And I remember when we would have these kind of more fundamental questions of like free will, for example, that can be really tricky or kind of weird or whatever. Like, how is God okay with like suffering, and or good people suffer, you know, and like people like not knowing how to answer those questions and just having to be fine with it. Like, because that's, if you believe in God, that's what you do. That's what it is. It's just all grace be to God, and like that's it.
God has a plan.
God has a plan, or like it's just like there's. Like, I was literally thinking, sorry, I'm like rambling now.
No, it's okay. I can cut anything that's too inflammatory.
Yeah, no, but like, or like, I was thinking of the parable of the sower, for example.
Ooh, I don't know that one.
I think you do.
Oh.
But the parable of the sower, I was literally just thinking about it while prepping for this episode outside. And I was thinking, I'm like, that's a weird parable. That's such a, I didn't stop to think about it. I'm like, if you really stop to think about it, and especially again, how my church rationalized it, essentially is that like, if you're going to spread the word of God, you got to spread it in like fertile soil. Don't spread it on like concrete where it's not going to grow, or like among the weeds where it's going to get choked out. You have to plant the seed.
Selective proselytizing?
I get, right. Isn't that weird? Like, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like,
is that what the parable's about?
Yes, essentially. Oh. Like, and I remember my pastor was like, fertile soil is children. Yeah. Like, like you plant the seed in children, like that is fertile soil that will grow. And like, we see that all the time. And like, stopping to think about that just feels, yeah, there's no room for critical thinking. You know, there is no room for critical thinking. And crisis of faith, or kind of like making it synonymous to a crisis of faith, kind of again eliminates the idea of critical thinking.
Well, let's come back to another misconception. It's only in cults. Faith abuse can happen in any community, large or small, formal or informal. It can be at like any sort of like place of worship of any size, you know, within your family, within a meditation group, a yoga studio, like anywhere.
Yeah, it's essentially using those ideas that...
It can happen at your work. It could. What? Speak more on that? Well, boy, how do I talk about this without mentioning current events? Let's say that you post something about proudly not being a conservative Christian, and then something political happens where suddenly people are taking screenshots of those sort of things and they're sending them to your boss. And then you get deleted from your company because that doesn't align with what your boss thinks. And like, that stuff happens on both ends of the spectrum, and it can happen anywhere.
And you know what I go back to is like all these things, whether in your home, in your workplace, in your community, in your church, is like, it just leaves less and less room for nuance, less wiggle room for people to be people. And like,
it's just my way or the highway.
Yeah. And like, I say this all the time. There's a lot of space for humanness in our office, in our sessions. People are messy, and we have to make space for that, or else there's just major disappointment ahead. So a lot of what faith abuse does is like creates no wiggle room, right? And so where do like everyone's like walking on eggshells all the time in their lives, not wanting to piss off the big guy or the people in charge, or even their own selves, right? There comes this point in like internalization where you start to adopt these beliefs yourself, and you don't even need a pastor or a teacher or anyone else telling you like, that's bad. you internalize it. You say it to yourself. Which leads to what you had mentioned earlier of like an erosion of a person's sense of self or agency or trust in oneself. It's like you really begin to doubt a lot of that.
A last misconception to talk about, and this goes for basically every type of abuse, is that this misconception that it's the victim's fault. And of course that's messed up. There's a whole trope about that. The victim is never to blame in a situation of abuse. Faith abuse especially exploits trust and vulnerabilities. And like we said, it's like at the core of your desire to be a good person. And the responsibility lies with the abuser 100 billion%.
Yeah. And what I do tend to see is a lot of self-blame.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you guys a social example, right? I think about like the Duggars. They were
Talk about Duggars.
They were obviously like, a lot of people know about this family. There's a lot of problematic things about this.
This is 18 kids and counting family.
19 kids.
19 kids, 20, 21, whatever.
It's 19. And anyway, I know that a lot of the victims in that story blame themselves. I read Jill Duggar's book, and you can still feel it's like sopping with this like religious rhetoric.
Jill is the one who left, right?
Yes. I mean,
quote unquote
left.
She's wearing jeans. Is what you're saying. She wears jeans.
She wears jeans. She has a nose piercing.
She has a shirt with no sleeves, or maybe a couple.
And I think she's done having children at like 2.
So like, she's out.
She has stepped out of that doctrine, right? Yeah. Like this radicalization, this fundamental belief, quiverful movement, life, IDLP, whatever.
Oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah,
never mind.
But anyway, so she stepped out of that, but she's still very much religious. She still believes in God, believes in Jesus, like very conservative. Very conservative. But like, yeah, like I can, like when I read her book, like I said, I felt like it was still sopping in this like rhetoric and like shame. Like there's still so much shame and so much like desire to please. And I think again, for especially a lot of my women clients or women that I see or women in the church carry the brunt of the shame. They are socialized and indoctrinated to think that it is their fault, that they are only serviceable, meaning that they have no other purpose than to serve God or serve man. And that is deeply rooted, right? Women already are socialized, right, outside of the church to be polite, to be nurturing, to be all these things. And it just like, it's a double down on that, especially for women in this community that I have seen, that there's a lot of, and this is something that maybe we're going to head into right now, just starting to heal some of that or deconstruct some of that. A lot of that is in that article that I had mentioned called Rebuilding a Life After Religion by Ashley
Abramson.
Yeah, Abramson. And essentially it talks about healing that part of, right? Redefining, rediscovering a sense of identity outside of those things, right? Identifying for yourself what's important versus what the church deemed important. And Jill Duggar, amongst many other women, I think, and many other people who have experienced faith abuse, have to deconstruct some of those beliefs.
Yeah.
And that is a very painful and difficult process. Yes. Essentially, you are deconstructing your worldview, your sense of self, potentially relationships, because like I said, there's this encompassing of like everything in your life, your partner, your friends, your family, your church, your school, potentially your work, your social circles, your social media. Like all of this is infiltrated by this particular belief and power dynamic. So deconstructing might mean severing a lot of those things. And so what are you left with? Not much.
Yeah.
And that is a very painful process that is scary. So scary. I think another good example, or someone who I think talks about that a lot, that can be maybe, resonate with some people is like Rhett from Rhett and Link.
I was thinking of those guys too from Good Mythical Morning.
Mm-hmm. Because I know he's talked a lot about his deconstruction journey and how, like, I'm sure a lot of aspects of their life were forced to change.
Yeah. And not to like summarize it too much because of course it's his story, but essentially like he was a really, really like strong in his faith growing up, even as like a mid-20s guy, but he was always very curious, very scholarly. He liked reading about philosophy and stuff like this. And he kept coming up with questions that he wasn't getting adequate answers to. And then he would find out that some of the answers that he was told before were straight up lies. Like he kept talking about like this thing about they always tried to get us to disprove evolution by saying there's no transitional forms. And then you go and look up that there are transitional forms. And what he means is like, you can't see like the slow evolution of different creatures down the line of evolution, but like you can. And he's right. He's like, you just have to go and look and you see that a lot of the stuff that you're told is simply not true and you're being shielded from the truth. And that sort of like rocked his world as like sort of a young man. And he spent like the next 10, 20 years deconstructing the first half of his life.
Yeah. And like, that is a white male who did a little digging and found something that like didn't align. That's essentially called cognitive dissonance, when something that you believe doesn't really align with your reality and you feel this sense of discomfort.
Yes.
That is a huge part of why so many people might leave the church.
This is like you said, a cishet man from North Carolina. Like this is from, a place where those kind of viewpoints are not held valid.
Yeah. But then what I tend to see a lot is other ways in which cognitive dissonance comes into play, right? When you maybe find yourself attracted to a same-sex partner, when maybe
partner of a different faith.
A partner of a different faith. You are a woman. You are a person of color. When you, like, or when you experience pain or suffering, like these very human things happen that force us to question and just bump up against these beliefs that make no room for that. And like I said, part of that is dismantling what we believe about others, but a huge part of it is what we believe about ourselves. And that deconstruction, like I said, is hard. It's hard to redefine what you believe about yourself, that you don't, like, for example, deserve to make penance for a quote unquote sin, that you don't deserve certain things, or that you do deserve certain things. And like your purpose in life, like I think about, again, women are limited into this one particular life purpose, of like being a mother and a caregiver and a housewife, and it's like, what if you have an extreme passion to do something else?
Yeah.
Like that alone can start this process where you are questioning and feeling that sense of discomfort. And like I said, I've had lots of clients who maintain their faith, maintain their religion, continue to go to church. And I personally make a lot of space for that. And in my sessions with clients, like I said, this is not a criticism on religion, because it does serve a lot of really wonderful things for people and things that do benefit our mental health, like a sense of community, a higher sense of self-esteem, a sense of purpose, a sense of comfort, all of things that I think are important. And honestly, I do miss from being part of a church congregation. And it took me a long time to kind of find a community outside of that still gave me a similar sense. It's just not centralized anymore, right? But I think that it's just a big ask, and you kind of have to be ready for it. Or a lot of the times people are kind of thrown into it without warning, right?
On the subject of trying to heal or try to take some first steps, some applicable techniques, it's just like, it can be really challenging to make a first step, because ultimately what you're leaving behind is everything.
Potentially.
That's what it feels like. I'm sure, even if it's not literally that, I'm sure that's what it feels like. And it's important to, like, we say this all the time, but like small steps are always a good place to start. Starting with boundaries, making that first step. When I say everything, I mean like your sense of comfort, your sense of community, that kind of stuff. It's really scary. So like these little boundaries that we're talking about setting is like against maybe certain events, maybe limiting contact with some people, maybe trying to mentally separate yourself from certain messages that you hear. Because it's hard to go cold turkey.
Yes. and I think, again, creating a sense of wiggle room.
Yes.
Wiggle room for you to think, and this maybe goes into this next part of like reclaiming your inner voice, right? Giving yourself some time to critically think about some of the messages that you are hearing, or some of the encouragements that you're hearing from the people around you, right? Like allowing yourself some time to get back in touch with like your inner intuition and feelings. Yes. Potentially journal, think about it, talk to other people about it, right? Expand your horizons a little bit so that you can finally feel more confident in whatever decision that is. And if it is going back to that church or doing what you were doing, like, that's fine. You did your due diligence, right? You created that wiggle room to critically think and to amplify your own personal voice of what you personally want and what you think aligns with your sense of self.
Right.
But the idea there is creating that wiggle room. And I think boundaries really helps in creating that wiggle room.
And you mentioned going back. And if you don't go back, what you will probably run into is grief.
Yes.
Grief is for more than people. We've talked about it on the show before. Leaving a faith community is like, there's so much more to it than just the people. Like we said, it's the community, it's the identity, the sense of security. All of that is stuff that is like suddenly gone. All of that stuff causes grief. Grief is like such a incredibly powerful thing, and a lot of people don't really recognize it whatsoever when it's not applied to people, especially not applied to people who've passed away.
It's not, grief is not specifically relevant in one particular situation.
Right. Like I'm thinking of like, this is kind of it's going to be a morbid example because we're talking about grief, but like if I, like one of my best friends I had to cut out of my life and I grieved that. So, grief comes in a lot of forms.
Yeah. And mourning certain parts of you. Right. And I think that's
parts work.
Yeah, parts work. And I think that's exactly right. And they talk about that in this article too, more so in the context of DBT. But this idea of like holding space for both parts of you, right? Like I feel like I constantly have to do that when I'm working with clients in this space, because I know I can pull from those parts of me that were sitting in church and that went to youth groups and did all the things, and still hold space for the part of me that exists now, and honoring both. At the time, with the information I was given, I was doing my best. And things changed. Yeah. And grief is hard work, and it comes in waves, and it might hit you differently at different stages in life, right? Like maybe if you are leaving the church as a young adult, you might feel like you're really missing the church and feeling those waves of grief later in life. If you have like your own family, for example, and your children's childhood looks different from your childhood, for example.
You move to a new place and you're like, boy, that would be a great way to get a whole bunch of community really quickly. Yeah, exactly. Like we totally understand the role that religion can play, and like community, especially congregation, can play in people's lives. But going back to this idea of like, we need to have more wiggle room. And wiggle room is essentially like, I'm using it synonymously for like nuance. Right. Both like I said, nuance of holding both parts of yourself gracefully in the same space. Nuance of like having two things be true at once. Nuance in even just questioning and doubting some things that you've never questioned or doubted before. Can I tell a personal story? Please. Well, first, let me ask you if it's okay first, because it's going to be about me going to get baptized. Yes, sure. Okay. So when we were going to get married, there was a certain vocal minority of people in the family who said they really, let me try to put this as nicely as I can. They didn't think Jocelyn was going to have a very good life unless she married somebody who is Christian. And so I, being Jewish, was like, okay, I'm going to ignore that for as long as I can, until it got to the point where eventually I was sat down and told, like, listen, it's this or that. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. And I went to the church and I started taking classes. I think I went to a total of 2. The first one, there was another guy there, and it was not, I mean, it was pretty weird, but not tremendously weird, all the attention we were getting from the pastor. But the second time, the pastor clapped me on the back and said, I'm so happy that I can add another Jew to my collection.
Ooh.
And I stood up and I left in the middle of that because it was just me and him. And I called Jocelyn and I said, I'm not going to do this. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the family just had to be okay with it. We did not get married in a church.
Yeah, that was, and you know what? We actually didn't get married then. That was right before we broke up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really, really hard on our relationship.
Yeah, clearly.
Because I got abused pretty hard.
Yeah. And that wasn't the only incident either.
Yeah.
So it was definitely rough, and I think contributed a lot to my personal deconstruction journey. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? After 8 months, I was still thinking of you, and we reconnected, and like obviously we've been married 7 years. Happy anniversary! Our anniversary was last week. Mm-hmm. But it really was just again, that was my cognitive dissonance for me, was dating you. Because like I said, up until then, I had really only dated people from the church, people who my friends had also dated. And it wasn't it for me. It just wasn't it for me. Like vehemently, it wasn't it for me. Like I cannot stress how much it wasn't it for me. And then I met you, and you were it for me.
I'm so weird and different. I'm different from the other boys.
Yes, he was. But like, no, truly. And like, you weren't the only secular boy I dated. But
man, I was hella secular though.
I dated some other like secular men. Anyway, not the point.
Yeah.
The point to me was like this promise of like, date a godly man and you'll be happy. And like, bro, I dated lots of godly men and it was not for me. I cannot stress how much it wasn't for me. So then
including one that was basically grooming.
I mean, yes, I am trying to encompass all of that energy in the not for me's.
Yes. Sorry, just wanted to make it clear for everyone. It wasn't just a not for me. It was some seriously gross stuff sometimes.
Yes. And yes. Anyway, regardless, I had to sit with this feeling. And like, I remember in that time, like after you and I broke up, like really pulling away from the church instead of what I think people expected to happen, which was that I would get closer to the church. And I really wrestled with my sense of identity and was like, this is like, not just in like my dating life was it not for me, but then like I was being challenged politically and I was being challenged also professionally. I was studying to be a therapist and everything I was learning was actively not making sense and not aligning with what the church was preaching. And like, I mean, by the time I was in grad school, honestly, I was already a full step away from the church. But like all of that together, just quickly, I realized like, I can let go a lot of this shame, because there was a lot of shame and there continues to be a lot of shame around that. Because like my family, my parents especially, and I'm a people pleaser, especially to my parents. I want to please them even in my ripe age of 32. But it wasn't serving me at all. And I knew that it wasn't going to have a good place in our life, in our daughter's life. And that is so okay. But there are still sometimes waves of grief.
Yeah.
I still go to church sometimes. And I like it. Not for I like it because it continues to validate where I am now. I go to church to just like educating myself. What are people hearing? What is the rhetoric, right? In a common church, especially in like the church I grew up in. What are their beliefs? But then also, like I said, to validate where I am now, and just, I don't know, continue to challenge those parts of me because they're still there.
Mm-hmm. That's why they say plant the seeds young.
Truly. I honestly hold a lot of grace for that version of me.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't like a lot of that. And that's what's like hard about it, is that you have to reconcile with parts of yourself that you don't like. Like, definitely it isolated me in junior high and high school.
Wait, what do you mean? It isolated you from the other kids?
Yeah.
Got
like
because
the
you
belief.
Were religious?
Yes.
Got it.
I isolated myself. You know, like there was a lot of that in high school. And not only, like that shit is encouraged too. Like it's encouraged for you to be persecuted. It kind of like is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Anyway, we maybe lost the plot a little bit.
I was just wanted to hear you talk.
Shall we talk about intersectionality and faith abuse?
Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest one, and this is something that we've touched on already, is like this tie-in between like your membership with a religious organization and like your membership in your own family.
Mm-hmm. Or like, your ethnic group, or even your gender group. Mm-hmm. like the power dynamics definitely oppress certain marginalized communities, and they are particularly vulnerable. I think the largest community being women, mm-hmm. across the board.
And children.
Women and children, absolutely.
The elderly, mm-hmm. giving all of their meager money.
The 10%, yep.
Yeah, I heard that number's gone up recently.
The tithe number?
Yeah.
Now that's just silly.
I heard that one up with inflation.
Yeah, cultural and familial pressure, right? Again, speaking of Latinos, like Latin culture is heavily influenced with like Catholicism and Christianity, mm-hmm. And for many of like it's in our dialogue, like, and how we talk, mm-hmm. like que Dios te bendiga, si Dios quiere, like, and it's funny to me because it's like if God wants us to see each other, it's like take a moment to just hear yourself say that, like, but it's like I said, it's part of the language, mm-hmm. you know, like people who aren't even religious, like. Well, it's part of the culture, you mm-hmm. know. So there is maybe again this sense of disconnection from not just the religious group, but also to your family, to your religion, to your cultural. To your culture. I can't talk anymore.
Another thing that's important to mention is like, as long as we're talking about deconstruction and stuff. And acknowledging different ways why it might be really difficult. You might live in a place where the church or whatever house of worship is all that's there. Mm-hmm. And like everyone in town is in it. And you would literally be the only one. Or you know what I'm saying? Like there are places where it's actually like the only place.
Yeah. It really...
Like lack of third places.
Mm-hmm. That's something spaces. I think about that all the time. In high school, that really was a third space for me.
Yeah, there are places where secular third spaces do not exist.
Yeah, like I think of the mall, but we mm-hmm. recently went to the mall and we're like, it was like $50 for like a casual day at the mall.
Yes.
You know, like where we all had lunch and our child rode some of the rides.
Rode the carousel. It was buy one, get one free.
Yeah, and it was still like $50. So I doubt teenagers got that kind of money to just like be hanging around. Like this was a free, well, not always free actually. It's like free in like a weird way because we still went to like these mission trips, which are, again, I struggle to reconcile for myself. Mm-hmm. That were like hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes that I had to find the money for, either through fundraising or like my parents paid for it.
Wait, what? Wait, what do you mean? fundraising for hundreds of thousands. You would like collectively with a group of kids to go on a mission trip, right?
Yeah, but like we were still responsible to pay like our airfare and like our stay and our food and all that, and like for like, I don't know, free labor. To run
free child labor.
Yeah, to run a day camp or to teach kids English or to build a whatever or to clean out a library or to. These are all things I've done, and so it's like free, but then you also are like roped into these trips or retreats and like I said, like at the time I would have hated to not go, but those were my friends. That was my community. I made my parents happy. Boys were there.
The forbidden fruit. Well, no, that's actually not true. The girls would have been the forbidden fruit.
God, and the sexuality, like this, the sexuality in any youth group is like
so pent up. It's like you have to wipe the condensation off the walls. It's insane in a youth group room.
Insane, dude. Like the stories, the things, that you witness
depraved.
And hear. True. It's like have you said that to me that like strict parents breed sneaky kids?
I don't know if I've said that to you, but I 100% believe that.
Someone said that to me, and it always stuck with me because I'm like, yep. Youth group is like. Anyway, it's weird.
Anyway.
It's a weird place. It's such a weird place, and when I talk about it, it's weird because it's like a whole other part of my life.
Youth group or the whole thing?
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
That's what I was saying.
All of it.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird. And it's weird to me now. Like I said, where I'm making space for both, for this other part of me that like is not there, has never existed in that world. But like I said, when I'm in it, I was like in it.
Let's pause for a second. This is such a sensitive topic. Let's get the energy back in the right spot. I think we should do something we've never done before. Let's do another little grateful.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay, let me think here.
You want me to go first? I have one.
You have one?
Yeah, I said it earlier, but I want to like point it out now.
Oh, okay.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, buddy.
We have been married for 7 years.
Yeah.
We have a child.
And everything.
And we did it.
Yeah. We have a kid who's like here and everything.
We got the dogs and we literally have the white picket fence.
It's kind of, the paint's coming off, but yeah.
Yeah. It's
kind of brown now.
Yeah. It's, you know what? We did it. And like 7 years is nice.
Not nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm very grateful for you and our marriage and for listening to my inner voice in that time. Because it paid off.
That's so nice. My little grateful is Halloween.
That's a good one.
Yeah, maybe I'm using the Halloween one too early, but Amari is already so into pumpkins and spooky stuff. Every time she sees a ghost, she goes, "Ooh, spooky!" And it's just the best. It's the best.
It is. It is the best. Yesterday, I took her to the park, and on the way to the park, there's like a little walkway with like some trees and stuff, and she's like, "It's dark in here," and it's just it's the best. She does like scare me.
You scare me. Yeah, she's great.
She is great.
But
She's almost 4.
This is about Halloween though, so let's back it up a little bit.
All right, we'll talk more about Halloween then.
Shoot, I do have to talk about her again because I really like her costume. She's gonna be a duck this year. A really good one. I don't know what I'm gonna be. Maybe I'll be like a park ranger.
Okay, that's cute.
Yeah.
What will I be?
Yeah, what will you be? Maybe you could be another animal.
Okay.
Or whatever you want. I don't know.
Lovely.
You could be a butterfly.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm feeling better now. Let's come back a little bit and let's talk about overcoming some obstacles. Anything that we haven't covered yet.
Alrighty.
Here's something that I don't think we've actually mentioned literally. When you are thinking of leaving your religious group, obviously if you're in the religious group, I'm going to assume that you are at least somewhat of a believer, even if you're attempting to leave a religious group. Mm-hmm. So there is a fear of
not going to heaven.
Right.
Yeah.
Serious, like, divine consequences. Mm-hmm. Like, what if I'm wrong? What if I do this and I end up in hell forever?
Mm-hmm. My soul is condemned.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, like I said, you do have to reconcile all that. Mm-hmm. And that can feel really heavy.
So what do you do?
You do continue to question, right? And you make it make sense to you, right?
Yes.
You find peace with what makes sense and is in alignment with you.
Yes. You can start with like these little small acts of rebellion of like, if you don't get an answer that is adequate to you, you should keep asking that question until you find an adequate answer. And if that takes you away from the leadership of your community, then it's like, I'm sorry, they should have been more open-minded. Yeah. Should have seen more gray area.
Yep.
Yeah, because like I feel like a lot of the issue is like everything is so black and white, like you said, like you have to do it this exact way. And the thing is, it's not this exact way in any two places. Mm-hmm. Everything is like either, it's this, but it's slightly changed, or it's that, but it's slightly
and these
tweaked.
Conditions. Yeah.
These conditions, you have to wear this specific hat. You have to be seated for this part. You have to be standing for this part. And everyone's got their own tiny little differences, and somehow we are still all seeing it in black and white.
Yep. It's so weird.
It's a sea of gray.
Yeah. And if I can speak on how I've reconciled it for myself.
Yeah.
Is I believe God is love.
Just the feeling of love?
Love.
Spiritual
act
love?
of love.
Oh.
Yeah, all of it. Like when you show someone love and kindness and you choose love yourself, love your partner, whoever they are, that is, I think, God at work. I think that kind of thing really explains a lot of this, and explains how we should act and how we should move in our world. And it defies, like, those rules for me and, like, these whatevers. And, like, even in the context of the Bible and, like, Christianity, like, I still feel like that fits perfectly. Like, I'm taking this straight out of the freaking Bible of like God is freaking love, and I'm choosing to hold that as true, and that is it. That's and cool. I choose to love my clients and myself and my family, and that is it. And I do think I'm okay in like the divine punishment realm. Like, I do feel like I'm good. Yeah. Like, I think, like, truly come judgment day, if I am judged by whoever this God is, he's going to be like, yeah, you're good. Like, you showed love, you believed in love, you did those things, and you're good. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's also backed up in scripture. I don't know exactly what the verses are, but like there are scriptures of like religious leaders going in front of God and God being like, you didn't know me, I didn't know you.
Works do not make, what is it?
I don't know.
By works alone, I don't think shall not be saved.
No, I don't. That's not the scripture I'm referring to. But essentially that like who we think are saved, like in that parable, in that teaching, God is like, no, I didn't know you. Like, you might have said things in my name, but I don't know you. Bye. And the person who maybe didn't follow a certain religion is saved and is led through like the gates of heaven because he did do God's work. So anyway, I do think that like, and that falls, I think that's kind of a universal thing too, of like a lot of different religions, of it boiling down to God is love. So that is, I think that we're all kind of worshiping a very similar God, like you said, but then it's like we get bogged down by like, like what time we pray, or like what you can or cannot eat, or what you can or cannot wear. And it's like, what's the thing at the root? So for me, that was like how I reconciled it.
Can I tell you about my beliefs?
Sure. Love to hear it.
You're like, boy, for the first time? I think those things that you described, all those examples of love that you described, you talked about them as being God. I think of those as like the wonders, the most brilliant zenith of humanity. Because, like, not to
science your way into this.
Yeah, well, just because, like, I truly think my belief is, like, the highest calling that you can ascribe to is to choose to be empathetic to everyone, including people who other people say don't really deserve it, which is kind of a basic tenet of, like, a lot of psychological research also. But if I'm operating it on this idea of, like, these two groups of people are, like, they don't agree, and one of them is, like, fighting to exist and the other one is, like, fighting to make them not exist, like, that's, like, a really obvious thing for someone with, like, my viewpoint to look at and be like, okay, I get it. And I think, like, as far as, like, where people see God, that's like what I said before, like, I just think that's people being amazing a lot of the time, like, being the best of the best. Because, like, what I view as, like, the best person or, like, the most successful person is a person who's, like, full of love. Which I think is, like, the same thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
Basically, we're calling it two different things. I'm deliberately trying not to be spiritual about it. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's just like I think it's a choice.
That entity, right? Like the choosing of love, or, like, the choosing of being, like you said, the zenith best thing that a human can be. I think that quality is God, you know, and, like, God is, like, and I think in this term, like, a placeholder, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that it's, like, a being. You know,
right.
I don't think it's
not like a guy.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a guy. Like, I think that's what I'm saying is, like, love is it.
I don't believe in, like, a force of, like, love that's, like, moving through us necessarily. I think what I believe in is people's free will and their ability to choose to be a good person without a book telling them what to do.
Right. Like, the quality of love is that zenith place, and people can choose to move into that place,
right,
or not.
Right. A person's choice to do it of their own accord, not just because of dogma or because they're told, like, this is what being a good person is, but just, like,
to connect
to
with,
not hurt people.
Yeah. To connect with what it means to, like, I think even, like, loving our planet, right?
Yes, that is deeply intertwined.
Like, and people do feel that connection, right? We do have this, it's almost like this stream, right? Where you can choose to swim in it or not.
Yeah.
You know, and, like, I don't know, that stream can be very plentiful, right? When you do love your planet and you love your neighbor, or, like, your dog or whatever, like, you get some return, you know, and I think that part of it can feel magical, can feel spiritual, can feel like God. And that's why I say, like, I feel like God is maybe, like, a placeholder. I think before I maybe used, like, the word universe to kind of describe that feeling, or, like, some sort of spirituality. But, like, at the end of the day, I think you're getting at it, like, it is a choice.
Yeah.
And
my view is, like, I'm a secular humanist. It's about people's choices.
Yeah. I mean, and I always say too, like, love is a choice.
Yeah.
So, like, God is a choice. Boom.
Nice math. A equals C.
God is love. Love is a choice. God
All you need is love. We are pro-choice.
Yeah. I mean, and we're pro-choice. You can choose God or choose not. But we do hope you choose love, you know, whatever, and whatever that looks like. But
yeah, and we hope that no matter what you choose, that the people around you choose love too.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, we can't control other people. We can only control our reactions to other people. But that's why it's so important to surround yourself with people who love you.
Yeah. Unconditionally.
Yeah.
No conditions.
That's right. That is what that means.
I just wanted to emphasize that.
Without conditions, including, like, you be straight, or you be
gay, or you be black.
Get out of my house. You're not gay. Get out of here.
Oh, God.
Should we wrap it up, pal?
That was me wrapping it up with a nice little
nice
bow.
little bow.
God is a choice. Oh God.
Gang, we love you.
We do love you.
We hope you still love us after hearing this.
Well, yeah, we obviously have lots of thoughts and feelings, and as you can see, they're still changing, right?
Yeah.
We're still living in this world and taking new information and adjusting accordingly, and I hope y'all are too. And this is just a safe place for us to discuss some of these things. And
don't get too angry, because this is an evidence-based podcast.
I mean, we did bring literal evidence today.
Yes.
Okie dokie. That was it.
We love you so much.
Love you so much. Bye.
Bye. Purple Friends is an independent podcast produced by Vibe Therapy Services and is not a substitute for a session with a real therapist.
Our show art was created by me, Jocelyn Lang.
And our theme music is Nature Nurture by me, The Implied Bear.
Vibe Therapy is an Illinois-based private practice servicing clients in person at our Wheaton office and virtually throughout the state of Illinois.
We accept Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO, Aetna, and Cigna insurance. We also offer cash pay rates, financial assistance, and free 15-minute initial consultations where you can get a feel for our practice.
Think of it as a vibe check. Therapy doesn't have to feel clinical. Visit vibetherapyservices.com today to see if we vibe.